Only 100 of these shirts are going to be made. They're all going to be signed by me. The first 25 will get a personalized video.
Chris, I got to ask you a question. You at the beginning of the show, you said to me, think about this for a minute and then tell me what you think. Is the UFC, specifically the UFC, becoming pro wrestling? And after the past few events, with all the wonky judging, all the stoppages with referees for no reason, and I'm not talking about fight stoppages. I'm talking about, hey, we'll clinch for 15 seconds, and that's not good enough for this ref. Let's break you up. After taking all that in, yep, you're right. UFC is owned by TKO.
Yeah,
This is one and the same.
They certainly are. And I mean, listen, everybody forgets this part of it, though, Brady. The UFC is not a league. The UFC is not the sport of MMA. The UFC is a company, right? Just like you can have an NFL team and you can have a USFL team. But what they're doing clearly has gotten away from them a little bit, because there's no harm, no foul in having the meetings with your referees, with your judges, with your fighters, and they all do this, and letting them know, listen, this crowd tonight, well, this is what we're looking for in our fights. We want to see exciting fights. We want you to be able to judge exciting fights. As fighters, we want you to go out there and give us exciting fights. Now, how that gets implemented once they step inside of that octagon is completely up to them. But what we've seen is blatantly apparent. What was it? A couple of weeks ago, we literally had referees stopping guys while they were working up against the cage to restart them. We've seen this a couple of things, but then with this one fight, it happened like 4 times, to the point where even the commentators were literally yelling, like, what are you doing? Now, they got to be careful. They got to be careful, because I'll remind you of the reason that Dan Hardy doesn't work for the UFC anymore. Was for the same reason of basically saying, hey, ref, you're an idiot.
Outside of the merger, here's where I knew things were going to change.
Okay.
When they implemented the new rule set coming here in November. So in 3 weeks, we have a new rule set coming in across the board.
All right.
One of them is 6 to 12 elbows are allowed. I agree. I think 6 to 12 elbows, the reason why they've been banned, I think this is more vicious. Depending on who you are, the majority average person doing this is way more vicious than this, unless you're John Jones.
Not if you're throwing that. Jeez, what the heck was that?
I'm trying to do it and not make noise. You hear that? That's money, motherfucker.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, it is. I overpaid for this fucking thing.
But
the one thing that I felt like was kind of a workish rule was this new knee to the head rule.
Explain.
Basically now, if your hands are dangling, you can get kneed in the fucking face. If your one hand is on the ground, you can get kneed in the face. If your second hand is touching your fingertips with the one palm flat. Like, these are really detailed rules of what's going on, which I think overcomplicates the referees a little bit more. It's going to lead to shit like this. I think there's too many fucking rules in the sport.
So let me ask you about this one, because the one that you're talking about is the downed opponent.
Downed
And
opponents.
to a downed
Yes.
opponent. And a lot of guys will play that game though, Brady. And you
This
know
is
that
what I'm saying. It's
they're
too
up
many
against
rules.
the game, up against the cage, and they're playing the game with like, I'm touching the ground, you can't hit me. So they know that
Mhm.
they can leave their head exposed to be able to try to jockey for position and get out
Stall
of it,
out.
right?
Stall out a lot of the time.
Stalling.
Yeah.
Here's the one that and it was this past set of shows that made me think about this. And this is something that's been going on for a bit now. They have the instant replay rule, right? Where they
Yes.
can pull something up to see if it was a low blow, to see if it was an eye poke.
Mhm.
Well, I can tell you right now that there was an incident this past weekend where one fighter hit another fighter, and it looked like maybe they got eye poked because they reacted like they got eye poked right away, and they pull back, and the referee's like, "Oh, you okay? Oh, time." Calls for time. Instantly calls because it was Herb Dean. Instantly calls for give me the replay on it. Was it an eye poke? Was it an actual strike? Right? As it turns out, it was a strike where the thumb caught the eye, not the finger, but the knuckle catches the eye. So it hurts and it feels like an eye poke. But the time it takes for that legal shot, okay, that feels like an eye poke, for them to determine that it was a legal shot and start the fight right away is at least a solid 5 to 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
even maybe 10.
Mhm.
You know as well as I do what can happen in 5 to 8 seconds of a fight if a fighter is compromised with a shot to the eye.
Well, let's say you're in there with Pereira.
Sure.
That could be 4 seconds and it's over.
That's what I'm saying. So, and now they restart from a starting position, but this person has had a chance to kind of clear the cobweb a little bit in that eye and get back into the fight.
Mhm.
On the reverse side of this, though, before everybody starts sending their messages, shut the up.
Yeah,
Okay.
they don't comment enough. They send personal DMs and stuff. I check the YouTube messages. I'm like, how do they even have what comment? Just
Yeah.
comment below your frustrations. Don't stop sending me fucking DMs.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of you are just mean. Okay.
Yeah, they call you Chris Tidrico.
Well, that's
Like they say you look like Chris Jericho. You kind of do.
no, not
When
even.
Chris drinks too much, and that's not anything knocking you. I'm just mean when he bloats out a little bit.
All right. Cut. In no time in the history of anybody ever named Chris has Chris drinks too much ever been a thing.
I thought I really
A
had
lot of
cut there for
things, a
second.
lot of
I'm
things
leaving that.
might say Chris this, Chris that, but drinks too much, never, man.
All right. Yeah,
right,
you're
anyways,
totally doing. You're the learning tree now.
Hi.
Copywritten. Got fucking copyrights everything.
I don't listen. I don't
Same.
need anybody sending more of these. Anyways, what the hell were we talking about? We were
We're
talking,
talking about fighting.
pro wrestling and fighting.
Yes.
And we're talking about the reverse side that if somebody does get poked in the eye,
Mhm.
right, you have to take the time to be able to see that that was an eye poke and let them have that 5 minutes.
You get the
But
5.
it's still 8 to 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds before you determine whether or not it was a real eye poke or whether it wasn't.
So what are you getting at here?
This goes back to what I was saying and what a lot of people have been saying for the longest time, and they tried to come up with a solution for it. Gloves has to be a thing. The problem is they just tried to do these new gloves, and these new gloves I think
suck.
might be causing a bigger problem.
Here's the thing.
Right.
They should have just taken their fucking money and gave it to Trevor Whitman. Like Trevor was asking for an absurd amount.
Mhm.
Look, you guys make an absurd amount. You're doing the fucking sphere. If you can waste all your money on these fucking videos that no one's going to remember after an afternoon, why didn't you just give Trevor the money that he needed for the gloves? 'Cause he has the best MMA gloves, apparently, ever made. His copyright, his patent.
So let's take away the equipment. Let's take away the eye poke stuff. Let's take
Playing a
away
guitar over there?
all of that. Could you imagine if we start
Sounds like
bringing
guitar.
gimmicks? We start bringing gimmicks down to the ring with us or whatever. Bellator used to have a fighter that did it. They had that caveman Rickles guy, right?
Tiki.
Who used to like carry this gigantic caveman, club down to the ring with him. And I mean,
No.
Chemo used to back in the day, Chemo used
cross.
to come down with the cross
Tiki,
or whatever.
Tiki used to wear like a fucking weird robe and shit. Well, we know why. Rumor
has it Tiki used to hide. Never mind. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm not going to the fucking Burning Man again, dude.
Want to find out more about that stuff? Look up Sean Strickland's Twitter. I'm sure
you said Sean Combs wrong.
Oh no, that's a party of a different color.
It's a B Diddy.
Oh boy. Okay, well, we're not going to go there. I don't want to see you get.
You tweeted out that we were at a fucking P Diddy party, bro. I'm just following up on your joke that you made 6 weeks ago that no one paid attention to.
I did not tweet out that you were. I said
rumor
Chris. Has it that may have been the thing.
Follow Chris on Twitter at Notorious TID. Yeah,
do that. So
pro wrestling and UFC. We're getting all the details about gloves and things like that. Where are you going with it?
Well, think about this for a second. How far away are we from doing, Pride style entrances in the UFC? Wrong Pride, Brady, as you do your little dance for the audio.
Mayhem Miller. This is falling apart. This
no,
segment.
it's not.
Mayhem Miller when he came out with the schoolgirls.
Okay.
Right, that's the dance.
Right. That was Strike Force.
No, that wasn't. That was like Pride, dude.
Might have been Pride, might have been Strike Force.
K1.
But it wasn't UFC.
It was K1.
Here's what I'm saying.
TKO or something like that.
How long before we see stuff like that in the UFC now? How long before we see some even if it's as little as, could you imagine Pereira comes out, he's got the big stage, he comes out, they got him set up, and he does the march, and when he pulls back the arrow, instead of blah, blah, he shoots his fake arrow, all of a sudden pyro goes off like Batista.
No, the day that Dana's gone is the day that Rogan's gone. Once those two gentlemen leave the company, there may be some other people that leave, but once those two retire from the company, I think, yes, whoever's going to take over, you're going to see stuff like that. But I think Dana has enough reserve, and this has probably already happened, but he's probably has enough reserve and enough appreciation for the sport itself to tell these guys in the board meeting, go fuck yourselves. We're not fucking putting a goddamn Undertaker entrance together for Izzy. He's not coming out with a casket.
Are you fucked?
I think he'd rather promote Power Slap and get a money laundering scheme.
Don't tell me he has respect for the sport when you're talking about the same guy who has come out with a slapping contest.
I'm talking in terms of theatrics. He didn't like the entrances when they were doing it in the UFC, like with Tito and Chuck Liddell and the tap out guys and all that stuff. R.I.P. Mass. But they didn't. He didn't like it then. And the second that he had taken over and took over production, that was one of the things that he removed right away. And he didn't even like Dana's fucking weird, man. He didn't even like people say the Reebok deal and all that stuff was because they were doing a scam. And it turned out to be one. But before that, I don't think he liked having like dude wipes on some guy's fucking ball sack as they're trying to, pass guard. There was too much going on with all this advertising. It was becoming corny. The ads that were created and the businesses that were created were strictly made to be on people's shorts and on the it was getting funky. So we had to do something there. But I don't think Dana completely hates MMA. And if you hate MMA, Izzy's walking out with the Tombstone fucking music, and he's got a robe on, and he's putting the lights up. And no, it's not happening, man. It's not happening.
Why not? You talk about all that advertising stuff, all of that advertising that he took off of the fighters is in the octagon now.
Yeah. Okay. You know what though? If
he basically he traded, dude, and
it was always on the octagon. It was just the levels are kind of weird. Their dude wipes, I think, are still on the fucking octagon. To be honest,
think about this. If you're a company, and you have the ability to advertise on a fighter, you do that. But if you don't have the ability to advertise on that fighter and you still want to be on that program where that fighter is, that a lot of people are watching, you have no choice because that company is taking it away from the fighters and said, but, hey, Bud Light, instead of sponsoring one of the fighters, why don't you just throw all of your money towards us and we'll try to figure out some way to, hand out a nickel or two here.
Well, we're going to close the chapter on this one and take a break and come back real quick. But before we do, we definitely will have a chapter 2 for this, because I think there's more coming, and more conversations that lead into the pro wrestling UFC thing. But this is where I think the entertainment should be. If you want a showboat, you want a hot dog and grandstand, you do it in the octagon during the fight. I don't think you need it on the way to the ring. I don't think you need it in the touch and glove segment. I think if you want to showboat and you want to show people that you're a celebrity and you got charisma, do that while you're fighting. Turns you into Muhammad Ali. And that will lead us into our next segment with Ben Whitaker.
Hold on, like magic tricks?
Whatever you want to do. If you want to throw the Hogan Fireball from Halloween Havoc, it 'tis the season.
Dude, first person that dances with a chair like La Parka, I'm in.
Thanks for watching that video. If you like that video and you want to see some other stuff, check out our catalog here on YouTube, or you can find us on any podcast provider anywhere in the world.
Yep,